Welcome, folks. This is Tom O'Brien of TFNN. We're broadcasting live today from beautiful San Francisco at the Hard Asset Show. Guest today, Phil Baker, President and CEO of Hecla Mining. Hecla trades on the New York Stock Exchange. In fact, when you take a look at the New York Stock Exchange, folks, whether you go back 30 years, 50 years, Hecla's been there quite a while, blowing through volume last week. Phil, welcome back to TFNN.
Good to be back.
You know, when we talk about the New York Stock Exchange, how long have you been on the New York Stock Exchange?
1964 is when we went on the exchange, and then we started trading in New York in 1913 on the Curb Exchange.
Okay, amazing.
So we have been a publicly traded company for a long, long time now.
So fill in the listeners about Hecla. I know, I was just looking at the last financials, and it's pretty amazing that it's minus $1.63. You're getting it out of the ground.
Well, that's right, and you mentioned something about volumes, and
yes,
that's really, I think, a telling sign on the company, the sort of volumes that we've seen this month, because the silver price has started to move up. We went from about $19 3 months ago to as high as $29.
Yes.
And because of Hecla's standing, because of the assets that we have, the U.S. assets, the low costs that we have, the growth that we have, Hecla's stock performed unlike anyone else's. We traded this month more than 100% of our shares outstanding.
Yes.
So we've traded about 300 million shares so far this month. And it's really a function of really this history that we have,
sure,
and the assets that we've got as a result of that.
Now, business-wise, let's talk about where do you do business?
Okay, we have two U.S. assets. One's in Alaska, Greens Creek Mine. It's a mine that's been operating since about 1989. It is the sixth largest silver mine in the world. Probably the lowest cost mine, if not very close to it. And then you have the Lucky Friday mine in North Idaho, and it's been operating since 1942, and we're in the process of expanding that mine. You're going to see us expand production about 60% in the next 4 years.
Whoever named that mine was smart, right? I mean, talk to me about that. I mean, it's amazing. Every time I look, Lucky Friday, and whoever think you could mine for so long, right?
Well, that's exactly right. In 1942, when they started the mine, the production rates were quite small. The ore body was small, and in fact, until about 4 years ago, the mine had never had more than about 4 or 5 years of reserves in front of it.
Okay.
We now have a mine plan that's going to take us out past 2030, and with what we're doing at depth, you probably will see the mine go decades beyond that. So it's extraordinary, the long lives of both the mine in Idaho and the mine in Alaska.
Now, talk to me about the byproduct, because what we've had here is that we've had China going all over the world buying resources. The first time that I met you and interviewed you is probably 7, 8 years ago now. Base metals were okay, but they're not like they are now. No,
that's right. And we are the second largest zinc producer in the U.S. and third largest lead producer. So byproduct prices have a big impact on these financials. We see a relatively large percentage of our revenues come from these base metals. One of the things we've been doing is starting to hedge some of that exposure on the base metals in order to manage really our cash flow.
Yes.
And that's gone extraordinarily well for us. And we think over the long term, you'll really be able to lock in those cash flows. The other thing it does is it concentrates the exposure to silver, and that's really what we're about.
What's amazing is that when hedging, some people think it's a bad word. When I look at it, I'm saying to myself, oh my God, if you have a business that you're happy of what you're getting for, and you don't have to get greedy, why wouldn't you be happy if you know that it's in your little backyard and you're pushing it out?
Sure. Well, and I understand people's reticence to hedging, because we're not going to hedge our precious metals.
I'm with you.
The shareholders, they want that exposure. We will give them that exposure.
Sure.
We're just hedging the base metals.
All right, which is fabulous. Yeah. Talk to me about Alaska.
Well, Greens Creek, it's a mine that we acquired the portion we didn't own, which Rio Tinto owned 2 years ago, and that has fundamentally changed the company. doubled our silver production, and cash flow is increased about 3 times as a result of that. It's a great asset. It's a mine that has about 10 years mine life in front of it today. But as we explore in the same way we've been doing for the last 20 years, we tend to expand the reserve life 2, 3, 4 years at a time, and that's what we can see happening.
And how far up in Alaska is it?
It's on the Panhandle.
On the Panhandle.
Yeah, it's actually in the city of Juneau.
Yeah.
Which is the capital of Alaska.
I had 3 offices up there. I know.
Okay.
I mean, you're in heaven.
We are in heaven, and
God.
we are the largest private employer in the city. So we have an important role to play.
Yes.
We're well thought of there, well supported. It's a great operation, one that's going to go for a long time.
And so it's interesting because can you explain to the audience, you know, I started out that you have a negative $1.63. If you can just explain to the audience how that happens.
Well, that happens as a result of the quality of the ore body that you have and the fact that it has 4 revenue streams. It has lead, zinc, gold, and then the primary one, silver.
Yes.
And as a result of that, it allows Greens Creek, for example, to have cash costs of negative $4.50.
Amazing.
So it's for the whole company that we have this negative dollar cash costs. And as base metals prices have risen, and they've settled back some over the last 3 weeks, but as they've risen, you'll see our cash costs even lower than that.
You know, it is amazing. I believe the first time that I met you, it was with Mr. Brown, and I think that silver was at $4.20. And now you're at a negative 420.
Pretty close. But you know what's interesting to me is even back in those days, these assets are of such high quality that we still had margin in the assets.
Yes.
Despite the fact that the silver price and the lead and zinc prices were so low, they could still operate and generate cash flow.
Amazing.
So you know, these are assets that are doing fantastic now. They're assets in a changed environment will still do okay.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. Listen, folks, thanks for being with us. It's Hecla Mining, trades on the New York Stock Exchange. Phil Baker, thank you so much. Look forward to having you again.
Okay, thanks, Tom.